He's going to go on and he says, verse 13, you say, so another saying, you say, food for the stomach and the stomach for food. So what was happening in Corinth, they were saying, hey, sex is like food. I get hungry and I eat. And so therefore, he's making the same point. You say that sex is like that you just get hungry and so you eat. You feel a little feeling some friskiness, and so you just go make it happen and whatever. And here's his response. He says there in verse 13, he says, God will destroy them both. We don't have time to go in and all of that. But the bottom line is that those temporal, because that's what it is, those temporal urges, desires will one day be gone, right, in that context. The moving on, I should say, the body, however, is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. Now, instead of giving ourselves to temporal and fleshly appetites, that's not what our body's made for. Now, I want to point out here, this is important. Every time the word body shows up in 1 Corinthians 6, it's not the word sark or sarka, right? We've heard that. So sarka is the Greek word that whenever it's talking about just the body, like a corpse or just your physical body, that's when the Greek uses sarka. This is the word soma. Soma is more like the person. Right? So it's not just the body, it's not just my flesh, it's actually my personality and who I am. That's what soma is. So he's saying that the soma, the body, because this body will be gone one day, right? We'll inherit a new body. And it says that our corrupted body in Philippians 3 will be turned, and he'll change it into a glorious body like his own. So we will one day receive a new body that is very similar to the body that Christ has in heaven. All right? But for the time being, our soma, which is our body, including our soul, our seat of emotion, who we are. Your soul is who you are, and your body is just what your soul uses to interact with other temporal bodies and stuff. Does that make sense? And so your soma is not for sexual immorality. It's not, there's a great stark statement, isn't it? Because certain things have a use. And you can use other things that don't fulfill that use, right? I worked on cars for 16 years for Honda and Toyota. And guess what? There are times where you grab anything to make it a hammer. You just need to get a job done, or you have the wrong set of pliers, or whatever it might be, and you will make all sorts of weird tool combinations to just make something work. And you might get by. Sometimes you get hurt doing that. So you have to be very careful. And he just makes this statement. He says, your body is not designed for it. It is not for that. And the reason he's saying that is not because he's a giant jerk that hates sex. He's saying it because he designed us, and he says, I did not design you for that. It is harmful for you to do that. Just like if you were to go out and eat a bunch of hemlock, or you were to go out and sniff a bunch of cyanide. If you were to, your body's not made for that. You don't feed your dog a bunch of chocolate. Why not? Its body is not made for that. And so Paul is making a point. Your body, your soma, who you are, your person, is not for sexual immorality. It will literally destroy it. It will destroy who you are. So he's going to go on there. He says it's for the Lord. And the Lord is for the body. So God made us to be interactive with, to appreciate, to be appreciated, to dialogue, to have fellowship and relationship. We were literally built for that. You see that in Adam and Eve. I mean, they lived a great life, right? They cruised around naked, they ate plants, and they did botany all day. That's what they did. And it says they hung out with God. They walked with him in the cool of the garden during the day. That's what their whole initial purpose was. And it was sin that robbed us of that initial purpose. He's going to go on. By his power, God raised the Lord from the dead. Amen. We can agree with that. And he will raise us also. So this is actually a very profound idea of the resurrection and our resurrection. And Paul just kind of throws it out there as a kind of a conclusion statement to this first point. But he said, look, he raised up Christ. The body is not for, the body, the soma, the person, is not for sexual immorality. It's for the Lord. And someday, the Lord will raise the body, us, this physical body, just like the Lord raised Jesus, he'll raise us up too. That there will be a finality to our salvation, a conclusion to this portion of our life that will result in a new body, that will not even be tempted by those types of things. And he's going to go on from there. Verse 15, do you not know? Again, he uses this phrase, 6 times in this chapter and 9 times in the letter. He says, do you not know that your bodies, your somas, are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take the members of Christ and unite them with a prostitute? Never. Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become one flesh, but whoever is united with the Lord is one with him in spirit. So he makes another comparison, a couple comparisons actually. First he says this, your bodies are members of Christ. And we're going fast now, forgive me for that. Your bodies are members of Christ. So if we were to turn and we could look in 1 Corinthians 12, when Paul is going to begin to talk about spiritual gifts and spirituality with each other, he makes this point, and it's in other letters too, but he makes the point, he says that Christ is the head and the church is the body. So our somas, our persons, we are part of Christ as his body. So we're not for immorality, we're not for being given over to temporal lusts and passions and these type of things, although I don't think we should call sex drive lust, because sex drive is, in marriage, is a very good and healthy thing, and it perpetuates the whole race of humans, so it's kind of necessary. But this idea here, he's saying that our bodies are members of Christ, that we have a higher calling than sexual immorality. Our calling is beyond temporal. Our calling is to be part and to receive from and contribute to what God is doing. Does that make sense? That our somas, our bodies, are members of Christ. So much better. So you have these two things that you can become members with. He says you can become one flesh with a prostitute, or you can become, and it's not, we'll talk about it, or the other side of it is that you can become spiritually one with God. That you can fulfill that which you've always been called to. And if we break it down, that which you've always desired. Full acceptance, no holds barred honesty, relationship, full knowledge of who you are, and one day to have full knowledge of who he is. That we can partake of that now. Now, Paul uses, I think it's noteworthy, he uses this example of the prostitute, and he says that in verse 16, he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her. For it is said the two will become one flesh. So he quotes Genesis about marriage. So there's another comparison here that Paul's making. Sex with a prostitute, I think we can agree, is probably the most meaningless sex that a person could have. Would we agree with that? You're literally going to someone you don't know, well, I mean, unless you're a regular, I suppose, but you're going to someone and you are paying them for some sort of sexual act, okay? And so the one reason you're doing it, you could be lonely, I suppose, and maybe there are prostitutes that are willing to pretend like they're your friend or something like that, but ultimately, you're doing it for some sort of gratification. It is the most meaningless sex a person could have. And yet, Paul here points out that something happens with your soma. You become one. He is not saying that you get married to her. I don't know if you've heard that before. People say, oh, well, if you had sex with a bride, then you're married to that. Anybody you have sex with, you're married to that? That's not what he's saying. He's making the point that even though human beings think, the Corinthians in specific, think that they can have meaningless sex, the reality is they cannot. You know what's funny is that every sitcom on the planet in the 90s demonstrated that, didn't it? It didn't matter if you were watching Friends or Seinfeld or whatever you were watching. When two characters in those, friend characters in those sitcoms, they had sex, all of a sudden everything got weird for everybody on the show, right? You literally have Hollywood people writing these shows, two characters apparently sleep together in the show, and everything's weird for everybody. But now you fast forward to our media today, and it's billed to us this way. You can have sex with whoever you want, do whatever you want, whatever, anytime you want, and there's no ramifications. The problem is that statistics vastly disagree with that. There are huge ramifications of emptiness, of loneliness, of addiction. Multiple partners is vastly destructive. Now, here's the thing. I am not condemning people with multiple partners. I'm not. I'm not saying you're beyond hope. I'm not saying that anything. I'm saying there's a million physiological reasons why God says don't do that.